Welcome back, listener. How are you? I am glad you had a good week. And this, of course, is Aaron Richmond, the host of Aaron's Opinion, a podcast for blind people where we talk about critical issues in the blindness community. Wow. As a matter of fact, tonight's guest is someone who is not blind, but we're still really glad to have them. They've been waiting a long time. We got a little mixed up. We got a little confused at first. There was a small technical problem at first that got us a little thrown off course there. But now we're very glad to welcome this person. But by the way, before I do, Aaron's opinion, Aaron's opinion is available almost anywhere you get a podcast, from Apple to Spreaker to Spotify, YouTube. We're probably there, along with Twitter, and of course, you can always follow us on Patreon. And by the way, everything I'm saying is my opinion and is copywritten by Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion. Thank you. Now to the important part. I was scrolling through Facebook and I had never heard of this person before in my life, but I'm so glad I had heard of her. She boosted a post from her podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Unearthed with Christine Babu. Welcome.
Yay! Thank
How
you
are you?
so
How are you?
much.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome.
First of all,
One
can I say thank you for having me, for giving me this opportunity to be in your space?
first of all, let me tell you, you are always welcome on Aaron's Opinion. We're so glad to have you.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
One of the things that really inspired me to interview you this evening was the fact that it's just your perspective on life.
Yeah.
I've listened to a couple of your episodes. I might have listened to one very recently, where you talked about, maybe bullying or harassment.
Yeah.
And I certainly listened to that one. And that one sounded, I will tell you, even from my perspective, that one sounded oddly familiar. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you covered that topic. So thank you for
Th-
covering it. But why
Thank
don't you tell
you.
us why don't you tell us basically your life story,
Yeah.
and how you came into podcasting and how you got this idea for Unearthed with Christine Babu. All right, go ahead. For a bit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Awesome. I'll try and summarize it all. But I'm originally from Kenya. And Kenya, for those who do not know, is in Africa. It's in the eastern parts of Africa. And I always had this curiosity about life. Yeah. I knew that there was more to life than my African culture, my Kenyan ways. And thank goodness my parents were really one of those parents where, you get to explore the world as much as you can. And I had opportunities to travel, and I lived in Australia for a while. And I have family here in the US, right here in California and in Seattle. And so when the opportunity came for me to move to the US, we moved to the US, and what can I say? Had kids, and life started really being brutally honest with me, because when you are younger, I feel like you are shielded from a lot of what the real world is like, for many of us, not for all of us, but for many of us too. We are shielded. And so when I started living life authentically and showing up to this world and trying to make myself live a more purposeful life, I then started having my own experiences in life and made some mistakes here and there, and eventually got myself right on track. And by mistakes is just, when you're young, you party so much, you get into the wrong crowds, and you quickly learn that life is not so forgiving. So we never did anything crazy, but we just really did a lot of alcohol drinking. And my friends would experiment with drugs and everything, but I never had that. I guess it never just appealed to me, but if it did, I probably would have tried it. And so eventually, fast forward, grow up, get yourself situated, have your jobs and everything. And I just started seeing life in a totally different lens. My friends were now grown up, we were all grown up. But then I started experiencing like situations like bullying, and I started experiencing, not experiencing, but seeing experiences where people had gone through human trafficking, slavery, and all sorts of injustices taking place in this world. And I just found the fire in me to kind of like really stand up for some of these issues that really mean so much to me. So you'll find that I'm really justice driven in that I want to create a space in this world where we all feel safe, we all feel loved, we all feel like we matter. And therefore, I oftentimes will partner with organizations that, really do such justice, social justice issues such as human trafficking and all that stuff. So, and then I really love healthcare. It's an area where I have grown in terms of my career. It's been an area where I have had an opportunity to grow in. And, you know, my friends used to tell me, Christine, hey, healthcare is so terrible. I keep getting denied all these medications and all these opportunities to see a doctor for ABCD. And I would strongly defend healthcare. And I really did not see the other side of healthcare that they talked about. But because I'm so justice driven, I think the other side of healthcare was shown to me not too long ago when I started working for an organization where they were just doing things really, really wrong. And they were just really denying healthcare inappropriately. And I mean, let's just say patients were really being mistreated in that environment. And there were close to 3 million patients we're talking about. So there was another opportunity for me to exercise what I believed was right for all of us. And so I stood up and started trying to define and change the healthcare delivery system here in California. And and then I wanted to do something beyond just healthcare. So podcasting was the right way or path to go, I guess, because I had done blogging for a while and I had blogged for so many years. And I'm so comfortable blogging, let's just say that, because I feel like I have good strengths in my writing abilities. So I blogged for years and I felt like I needed to grow in my speaking uh, experience. And so podcasting was this great way to grow myself in an area that I feel the weakest, and also at the same time to impact society in a bigger way, because I wanted to continue these conversations around justice, around healthcare inequalities, around human trafficking, and in just even just the day-to-day challenges that we all go through. But it's really a forum for me to equip and inspire others to really go after what they've been gifted, because I feel like if we all used the gifts that we have for the betterment of this world, I really truly believe that we will leave this world in a much better place, and we will all get to live in an environment that we all want to be a part of. So that's really why Unearthed exists. It's really just to equip others and to motivate and inspire them by sharing authentic stories that really get people moving in the direction that they need to move. So, Aaron, that is just a brief summary.
And that is an outstanding story. I will tell you that I forget what I have and have not told you, so I'll tell you
Yeah.
that, and for the listeners who've heard this 1,000 times, I am repeating myself, but as I've said, my name is Aaron. I live somewhere in the universe, and I am blind. So most of my audience are blind people, and I felt that hearing how you speak and hearing the stories you told would be not only inspirational to anyone, but especially people with disabilities and people who are blind, who are, as you well know, having a really hard time this year dealing with the stress of everything that's going on
Yes.
around them. So, what was going on in my life to sum it all up and to tell you how we got from point A to Z, I guess, is
Yeah.
my academic background is in the field of international studies. I've done a lot of traveling to Europe, and I've even been to Eswatini in Africa. Oh,
Wow.
yes, I know what
Oh
it's like.
my, that is
I
so cool.
I love Eswatini. I love that continent. It is such a, trust me, listener, it is a beautiful, beautiful life.
Isn't it?
It can be a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful place. I am sure, I've never been to Kenya, but I'm sure Kenya is far more built up and industrialized than Eswatini. But anyway, and I was, in about a year ago, I was, listening to podcasts, for a blind audience from around the world,
Yeah.
which there are many, by the way. But I noticed one thing, Christine. I noticed
Yes.
that none of the other blind podcasts that I were listening to, and by blind I mean podcasts for a blind audience, I should say, none of those podcasts were truly approachable, where
Mm.
someone like you or any of my guests could just come up to me and say, "Hey, Aaron, can I come on your show and just talk to you, just have a conversation?"
Yeah.
And I feel that with so many of these podcasts, and I do understand that once the audience gets huge and once it gets out of control, it's hard to get back to people. But I just felt that there was this gap. And the gap kind of really turns me off. And I feel like some of these people in the podcasting community, some of them, the majority, 99.9% of them are amazing people, and wonderful and super nice people. Most of them are. But there is that 1% that are just kind of a little standoffish. And then, when they produce content for, an audience member who is blind, and then I wanted to talk to that person, or I had opinions, they kind of, my opinions were not heard. My complaints were not heard.
Mm.
So I felt, well, since I have so many complaints, why don't I start my own podcast anyway? I love to talk to people.
I love
I've been teaching English as a second language online for a company that I keep to myself, but it's a bit of a long story, and I just love talking to the world. So I thought, well, I love talking. I can't stop talking. I love complaining. I can't stop complaining. I want to educate the entire world. Why don't I start a podcast?
Oh,
So
I love
easy.
that.
And it began. My podcast began as something very simple, where each day I would go through my interest group, one of my groups on Facebook for blind people, and I would just read comments, and I would read posts of different things that are going on in people's lives, and I would take a comment, I would open my microphone and say, someone out there in the group talked about blah blah blah, and here are my opinions, and I would do 30-minute monologues, and I practiced doing that for basically every day for several months until I finally convinced my first guest to come on to Aaron's Opinion. Let me tell you how hard it is to get a guest to come on to Aaron's Opinion. Believe it or not, there are people, there are people even that are really, really, really difficult to convince to come onto a
Oh
podcast. It
yeah,
is,
that's so true.
wow. It's that becomes it is one of the slowest processes and by far one of the most rewarding processes to finally get to talk to a guest, any guest, by the way, not just you but any. It is so rewarding when someone finally, is on the other end of the microphone, on the other end of the string. And I find that the more I do this, the more I do Aaron's Opinion, the more I podcast, I have a motto, a vision for it, that all I need to do tonight in this episode is help you on the other end of the microphone. Because when I do, by the time dawn comes in the morning, I helped a
Yeah.
million others. And I truly, truly believe that in my heart. I don't need you to say it. Although you can say it because you're a great, because I love hearing you talk. You're a wonderful
Yeah,
speaker. But really,
yeah.
from the bottom of my heart, I truly believe that as podcasters, it is our duty and it's our responsibility to understand the concept of podcasting. It's a gift that I'm giving a listener. It's knowledge that I'm putting in their ear. It's just something, a little piece of audio medicine, basically, just to help them feel just a little better, because it might just help one more person. And that's me.
I couldn't agree more. Like, it's so true. I feel like we have been given this platform and we shouldn't take it for granted because there are people who who come in to this space that we've created to better themselves, to even get inspired, to just even live another day. So if we take that on as this responsibility that we have, I feel like we are much more inclined to really value it and value the benefits that it brings to others. And that's why I really wanted to even join you on your podcast, because you really value, and I could tell, like, you can actually tell those who put in the effort. And